Another story that comes to my mind is she used to go to a place up in Brunswick to get her nails done, and it was a Vietnamese lady that took care of her, and she was studying to become a citizen, and Sheila helped her with all of the questions and tutored her, and when she became a citizen, Sheila was there.
I love that.
And that just speaks volumes about who she was as a person.
Listen, when my sister won Teacher of the Year, like, she wrote my sister a letter, from Senator Sheila McNeill, and I was like, man, you don't have to do that. Like, I mean, she just cared, and I think, I want people to know that about her. And speaking of that Hallmark store, do you know people still talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
And I'm like, man, because I wasn't here. She was already doing the Camden partnership when I came to Camden, so I didn't get to see the Hallmark store, but people still talk about that. Finding little things. I think whoever moved in after her, like, they found, balloons and little things from her store, and that was just really cool. What's up, Camden County? You are catching episode 69 of the Getting in Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Alison Shores from the Camden County Chamber of Commerce. This Getting in Your Business podcast is made possible by our Chairman Circle sponsors, Georgia's Own Credit Union, Lockheed, Comcast, Georgia Power Company, Sparklight, Plug Power, St. Mary's DDA, TDS Telecom, and Ameris Bank. Thank you to all of our sponsors. All right, guys, today in the studio, we are going to be talking about the Sheila McNeill Legacy Scholarship Fund, and I have two people that knew her best in the studio here to talk with me today about that, because I don't know if people know the real Sheila McNeill. I think, people got to come into her life during certain parts of her life, but if you look at her whole story, man, that woman she was phenomenal. So I have Leslie, her daughter, here, and I have Keith Post, the executive director of the Submarine Museum. So guys, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Before we get into the scholarship fund that you guys have created, I want to talk about Sheila McNeill and talk about some of the things that she has accomplished, just kind of who she was, because I don't know if people here know the full Sheila McNeill, because that was an experience. Let me tell you, I got to work with her towards the end of her career, and I learned so much from that woman. In fact, she taught me a whole lot about just being a professional woman and then working with the military and working with your community. So guys, thank you for joining me today to take this time to talk about her. So first things first, Leslie, I want to start with you. So she was your mom, so I'm sure that was fun.
It was.
Her little personality. But what is like your favorite thing about Sheila McNeill?
Her ability, I think, to manage her career, her family, and still have time for all of us. That was amazing. She was PTA president from the time I was in school till I graduated. She's never missed a band concert. Her great-grandkids, she's the same way with them. She was always there for them, and watching her balance is who made me who I am today.
Yeah, I love that. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that she accomplished early on in her career. Where do we want to start, Keith?
Well, I had the pleasure for a quarter of a century to be affiliated with Sheila, and so I wasn't privy to the first part of her life when she had a store early on up in Brunswick. She actually had a position at a firm where she filed a lawsuit because she was discriminated against, and she was, she won that. And so I first met Sheila when I was on the USS Nebraska, and she had the Hallmark store here where she used to send cards out to the sailors, send cards out for the sailors, I should say, to family members while they were on deployment. And I got to do that to my grandmother and my dad and some other family members. And that was my first introduction to Sheila. Little did I know that after I got out of the Navy that we'd be joined at the hip for so many various functions. She was a remarkable woman, and her book here, What Are You Doing Here, is a great testament to a life well lived. And there's everybody from the president on down in there. And the thing I think the thing that I most admired about Sheila is she was comfortable in her own skin, and she didn't care if you were the admiral, the CNO, or you were a seaman on the Florida. She gave you the same undivided attention, and she cared deeply about those two folks equally. And an example of that, one of the best examples of that I have, when we brought the Georgia back to service, and she was the chairman, I was co-chairman, We raised a lot of money to do a lot of great things the week that the Georgia was brought back to service, and the ceremony down at the Waterfront was a culmination of that. And I remember that day we had some sailors that were working, driving golf carts to get people from here and there. At the end of the day, we had a relaxed, casual barbecue for both crews on the pier, and we had bags that we gave each of the crew members, and it had stuff in it that she solicited from across the state, peanuts from Sylvester, and all kinds of myriad things. And the guy driving the golf cart was a young seaman. I can still see his face. Don't remember his name, but I can still see his face. And she knew more about that guy than she knew about me practically by the end of the golf cart ride, because she was generally interested in where he was from, what his name was, what his career intentions were, what did he think about the submarine, all of those things she asked that kid, and then she knew everything about him by the time we got to where we were going. And that was true no matter where we were at. All of us have great Sheila McNeill stories, and but I think that captures the essence of who she was as a person. Another story that comes to my mind is she used to go to a place up in Brunswick to get her nails done, and it was a Vietnamese lady that took care of her, and she was studying to become a citizen, and Sheila helped her with all of the questions and tutored her. And when she became a citizen, Sheila was there.
I love that.
And that just speaks volumes about who she was as a person.
Listen, when my sister won Teacher of the Year, like, she wrote my sister a letter, from Senator Sheila McNeill, and I was like, man, you don't have to do that. Like, I mean, she just cared, and I think, I want people to know that about her. And speaking of that Hallmark store, do you know people still talk about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, man, because I wasn't here. She was already doing the Camden partnership when I came to Camden, so I didn't get to see the Hallmark store. But people still talk about that, finding little things. I think whoever moved in after her, like, they found balloons and little things from her store, and that was just really cool. But the one thing that I learned early on when I got here, one of the first trips I went on was to DC, and we were going on a fly-in. I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I didn't know a whole lot. I was trying to learn quickly, and Sheila was with us, and we stopped by the Navy League headquarters in DC, and I'm just like, wow. And I see Sheila McNeill's name on the wall and I'm like, hang on, we are in DC, and that's your name. What is, and that's when I found out she was the first and only female president of the National Navy League. Like, that's huge.
It is.
I mean, I don't know if people can really understand how big that is. Can y'all kind of help explain a little bit of that?
Yeah, well, the Navy League was founded in 1902 by President Theodore Roosevelt, and for years and years, it was a man's domain, if you will. And Sheila, before she became national president, she was vice president for legislative affairs, I think for 5 or 6 years, if I recall. And so she was very active up on Capitol Hill. She knew everybody. And so when it came for the convention, I think the year she was elected was in New York City, and she overcame a lot of obstacles to become national president. And she did a remarkable job. That building that you're talking about that has her name on it, that was constructed while she was national president.
Wow.
And so she spent a lot of time up there. And it was amazing to watch her in action. When the Georgia was brought back to service, when they were working on converting the GNs, the community here did point papers and everything. She flew to D.C. She went to all kinds of congressional offices with chocolate submarines. In fact, Senator Ben Nelson from Nebraska, who I met when the Nebraska was commissioned, talked about the lady with the chocolate submarines. And and we got all 4 of those boats converted, led by this community, I think. And a lot of it had to do with Sheila. And she did so many things during her time here from a military and a community standpoint. When you look at the Bancroft sale at the front gate of the base, Sheila was chairman of that. We got that.
And we're talking about the submarine that you see when you pass by that you can actually go in. Okay, yes.
25 years ago. That's been there 25 years now. And Sheila led the effort to raise all the money for that. In fact, I think it's kind of ironic. She's going to yell at me now when I say this, but there's 2 beautiful plaques out there at the thing. And, Sheila's name is misspelled on that plaque. Of all the people to have their name misspelled, Sheila's is misspelled on that plaque. But
oh, man.
Yeah. She was also the founding president of the museum. And her and John Krause and so many other people, Kathy Dempsey, Elise Thornhill, Cindy Hagman, so many folks, Rhonda McKinnon, all of those people that helped raise money to get the museum off the ground. Sheila really leaned into everybody, and and she had that. Leslie knows what I'm talking about now. She had that look about her. You did not want to displease Sheila because she gave you that Sheila look, and
I was privy to that look.
You?
And, yes, and I knew at that. You hush.
I would have rather had my mama's wooden spoon than Sheila's look.
Same.
But she did so many wonderful things. And the museum and the Bancroft are just two examples of that. The Georgia Return to Service, the Coast Guard unit that we have in St. Mary's. You can say what you want, but we have that Coast Guard unit here in town because of Sheila. And when you look at the map of the country and you see where they're all at, Boston, New York, Miami, Houston, New Orleans, San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and Hawaii, and little old St. Mary's. Why is it here? Why is it not in Jacksonville or Charleston?
Yeah.
It's because of Sheila.
Well, we still have the America's First U.S. Coast Guard community, and I think it was very important for her. She did not want to be a city. She wanted to be a community.
Absolutely.
And so I just thought that was really cool. I kept the sign because our podcast studio right now is actually her old office. So that it's kind of cool.
We're sitting at her table.
Yeah, we're sitting at her table, and I just think it's so cool. Now, Leslie, I know that you played a really big part in her. I mean, other than being her daughter, first of all, that's a huge role. But
responsibility.
Yes, but working with her, and you may have had other roles that I am not aware of. But when I met you, you were working with your mom when she decided that she was going to be a senator.
I did. I was running her campaign. I went in blindly. I had the most wonderful mentor I could have ever had, Mike Malloy, just walked me through exactly what I needed to do. And from there, with the help of all of her friends, we pulled it off, and we were the first mother-daughter team at the Capitol.
Well, I remember the day she told me she was going to run, she was like, I have a secret. And I was like, okay, what secret? Because Sheila's secrets are good. And so, like, when she told me that, I said, stop it. Senator McNeill? Okay. So it was a big deal, and I think she just wanted to serve. I don't think it was something that she, necessarily felt like, I don't know, she maybe have wanted to do it, but I felt like she needed to do it maybe. But I think deep down inside she wanted to serve. So I feel like, and she did a great job. What was it like to work with her?
It was really amazing. I was, skeptical at first. Are we going to pull this off?
Yeah.
But we created a bond very tight, very quickly. She knew I had her back. I could do whatever she needed me to do. And we really enjoyed each other. We had, our own apartment there that we stayed together, and we really got to know each other, mother and daughter. But as friends, as colleagues on the same level. And I've walked in her shadow my whole life. So it was neat to walk beside her, in that journey.
My favorite thing that Senator Hodges says now is that he had big little shoes to fill. And I'm like, oh. Because, if you knew Sheila, she was just this short little, just feisty woman. And I just, she always, her nails were always done. They were always, and she would get on to me because I would paint my nails black. And she's like, what are you doing? No. A woman, it needs to be pink or red, mainly red.
She
and I'm
did
like,
that to me. And like I had said, she said, those are the most hideous colors I've ever seen. And I said, well, I'm at the Capitol with you.
Yeah.
I can express myself through my nails or my mouth, Mom. And she's like, your nails are beautiful.
I love those nails.
But she did teach us, one of the main things that she taught me was you can do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter, what obstacles. And one that came to mind on the way here was, I was the chubby, short child, but I wanted to be a ballerina. And she, bless her heart, if there was a poster child for Peppa Pig, it would have been me in a pink tutu. And she sat on that front row and cheered me on. And I look back at the pictures about a year and a half before she passed away, and I saw that pink tutu, and I said, "What were you thinking?" She said, "It made you happy," and that's what my life goal was.
Yeah. I
She
love
just
that.
Never would let me give up on any of my dreams.
But I think it was a testament to her life too, because I mean, look how many like she did different things throughout her career, but all of them had their like a true impact.
They do.
on the people she was around and the even the communities she was around. So I just think it's wonderful. We could I was trying to think of some of the other things, but I don't. She was awarded a lot of things. I know she brought back ADICIMAD to us. I know if people see that in their windows, ADICIMAD was important to her. And it just stands for every day in Camden County is Military Appreciation Day. And I think, you'll see those.
And she thought of it as a lifestyle, not a slogan.
She did.
Right.
And that's...
And she lived that every day.
She did.
I think there's a couple of important things to follow on what Leslie was just talking about and what you mentioned. I think it's a great testament to Leslie that she works for the people that followed in Sheila's footsteps. And I think that speaks well of her and also the mentorship that she had with her mom. And I think that's very well worth noting. She was an amazing woman, and I don't think you can tell Sheila's story, though, without mentioning Arley.
I was going to get there because I love that man, too.
I don't know of another man who supported his wife as much as Arley. And he was very successful in his own right as not only as a businessman, but as a Navy leaguer. He's one of the founding fathers of our council here. Even though he lived up in Brunswick, when the base came here, they started the council here in St. Mary's in Camden County. And when Sheila became national president, he was his biggest he was her biggest cheerleader. And he traveled with her around the globe, carrying her suit, happy to have tea with the wives and whatever.
But that was up until the day he died. He
absolutely.
Was like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, loved that woman. And she loved him. Now, let's not get it twisted. She loved him. I mean, it was
the most beautiful love story that you've ever seen. And it just was amazing.
I can't tell you how many times we'd be somewhere on a trip someplace, and I got to call Arley, and she called. And after she hung up the phone, she always said, "I love that man."
And she did.
And absolutely.
And it was apparent with both. If you were with them, you knew.
Yep.
And so, when Arley was working at the funeral home, he did like my uncle's funeral. And he knew who I was. He made sure I had everything I needed, just took care. And it was all because of Sheila, and like if Sheila loved me, he was going to love me and do whatever, he needed to do. I think the world of them. I learned so very much just from watching them, so it's really cool. I was trying to think, some of the other things. I know we just, there's a new road sign that I saw as I was going into downtown St. Mary's. And it was such a blessing to be a part of that, hearing what these legislators had to say about Sheila. I was just like, man. Yeah. So she was really loved, not just here, but also, at the Capitol in Brunswick. They're just, everywhere. So yeah, let's talk about the road sign. What you guys?
That was a big surprise for me there. That my boss, Senator Hodges, Representative Sains, and Representative Townsend, and Representative Deloach, they all wanted to do something, in remembrance of her. And so the Senate did the Legacy Fund, and then the local, they did the sign for her in memory of her. They thought when they got her up there, we've got an old grandma coming. She got up there and held her own.
You only had to talk to her one time to know that wasn't the case.
That was not the case.
She opened up her mouth and you're like, whoa, okay.
Okay, yeah. She's going to be okay.
Oh.
But, she always told me exactly like what she was thinking. She never really sugar-coated anything, but at the end of everything, it was funny. Like, that's the one thing I remember about her. It didn't matter if we were, like, she was mad at me or I was mad at her or anything that was happening. At the end of the conversation, we both ended up laughing. And that's what I remember so much about her.
Not being angry.
Yeah, it was fun.
Laugh. Right. Criticism with fun.
She wanted to have fun. Like, our day-to-day was not boring by any means. So it just, I love her. I loved her. I hate talking about her in past tense. It's weird still.
Yeah. The one thing too about Sheila, I'm sure that Leslie would find this in the state legislature as well, but when she was president of the partnership, when we worked on different things, funding for this or that on the base or whatever, she did a tremendous amount of research. She was a voracious reader, and I can still remember visiting her house, and you'd see papers spread all over the coffee table and the couch, and she's knee deep in reading about something, and she knew a lot about a lot. And she could go toe to toe with an admiral. And one particular thing, one story that I remember very vividly is when during the Obama administration, they were going to cut funding for the Coast Guard, remove 1,100 positions and make 5 MSSTs. I think it was 4 or 5 go away. And Admiral Thad Allen was the commandant at the time. And we think, Sheila and I think, that he strategically picked which MSSTs to go away, right? New York, because that's where 9/11 happened. St. Mary's, because Sheila's here. San Francisco, because the Speaker of the House is there, or Nancy Pelosi's there, whatever. And so we went to war, basically, and we did point papers. And when we had an admiral from the Coast Guard come down, and we went out to the MSST for a meeting, and the admiral told her that it was going away. And she looked right at him and said, "We'll see." And so we saw it. It didn't go away, and we were at an event at the Coast Guard headquarters up in D.C., and she saw that admiral. She didn't say a word to him. She just walked by and smiled.
Yep. She didn't have to say anything.
She didn't.
See?
Look what I can do.
So now let's talk about the scholarship fund and what that's for, and how, what that is set up for, I guess, is what I really want to know, and how people can get involved and donate if they want to, those kinds of questions.
Well, the kids have extra expenditures. Am I right, Keith, on what they need?
So what this fund is for the academy, is to help students at the academy. Now, obviously, they go there tuition free, so it's at the Service Academy. But there are other things that occur in the life of a cadet there at the academy.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is meant to help them along with that as well, and support something that was very near and dear to Sheila's heart, was the Naval Academy and the Navy. All the sea services were very special to her. So I think this is a great tribute to her that the State Senate came up with.
Yes, and you can donate. That would be, the biggest thing that we're asking for now is donations. We have an online account set up. You can send a check in if you will. We also, I wanted to say, we've been very blessed. The Senate did this, and we've been blessed also by front runner Rick Thompson, who is overseeing all of the financial, making sure everything is filed correctly. He's been really great. And
because that's a big thing.
It is.
Like, I don't want to touch that. I don't even want to see it. Like, it just, so it's good that y'all have that. Thank you for mentioning that, because that's important to know.
It is. And we have a great board. I think, who we've chosen, and Keith is on the board with us, and she'd have been pleased with everyone we picked for that as well.
Yeah. One of the neat things that I get to do every summer in partnership with the base, I think this was our 10th or 11th year doing it. With the COVID year, we didn't. But we have midshipmen that come here to the base for submarine familiarization training. Part of the curriculum is they come to the museum for a lecture from the old crusty senior chief and learn about submarine history and stuff. And we try to strong arm them and they go into the submarine force. So it'll be nice to be able to see some of these kids that we award the scholarship to come through the museum, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to that.
I've learned a whole lot about the Naval Academy the last couple of years, just interviewing different people that have gone there and their stories. And I've been reading some books on it, and it is just really fascinating. The stories that everybody has, and I don't know, I think the Naval Academy is just amazing, and I didn't know much about it before I moved here and got involved with Sheila and what she was doing. And, she was the one that pointed out to me just different things that we needed to be doing for the sailors and for, I call them sailors. I don't even know if that's right. I don't know what service members, anyway, but it's what we should be doing, what we can be doing. And she always encouraged me to think outside the box. Just because somebody says no doesn't mean No, never.
She proved it with that Coast Guard admiral.
But she did. So I think this. I'm going to leave in the show notes where everybody can donate, where they can go. But before we go, I do want you to tell the story, the "What are you doing here" story. Just so people can understand.
That is a great story.
Because it's a good one, and I just think it's...
What makes this extra special for me is I was there when it happened.
Oh.
So what happened is my predecessor, John Krause, he was the big wheels behind the annual World War II memorial that we have here in Camden County every year, the first week in November. This year is our 37th year doing it. It was started by Admiral Konieczny back in 1988. And John invited her to speak at a luncheon for all these crusty old submarine guys, right? And at the table, this crusty old submarine guy asked her, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" And she said, "Well, I'm your guest speaker." "What? You're going to tell me about submarine and blah, 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 blah." And so his question to her, "What are you doing here?" that stuck with Sheila.
Oh, it did.
And by the time she finished talking, when she sat back down next to that crusty old sailor, he said, "Ma'am, I'd sit and listen to you anywhere, anytime, about anything."
Yep.
And that was who she was.
Yes.
It really was amazing. So the fact that she put that on the book, I think, is very fitting.
Well, I just remember her telling me the story because I was like, "What? Wait, why is it called this?"
Yep.
Like, I'm not going to read this whole thing right now. So tell me what it, And she explained it, and I laughed so hard because it's just like her,
When she did this book, I had my doubts to be honest with you, because I thought it was a big undertaking. But and she, whenever she would write a section, she always sent it to the person that she was writing about if they were still alive, to get their take on it, make sure. And she sent it to me to proof it, and I made some corrections or suggestions to her here and there, not many, but. But when she did the book, she gave my father one, and she wrote such a beautiful tribute to my dad in the book. And it's amazing the people in her life that she and your dad came across, And the thing that's remarkable to me is just how grounded they were and how down to earth. It didn't matter what time of their life, where they were, who they knew. They still were so comfortable with each other and so comfortable in their own skin. Didn't matter who they were with. And I think for me personally, the greatest example is that is one day I'm driving down the road and they called, and Sheila called me and said, "Keith, we're at the funeral home. Arley's got a question he wants to ask you." And I thought, why are they at the funeral home, first off? And Arley says, "I want you to give the eulogy at my funeral." And I was blown away. I said, first off, why are you asking me this now? And, it sort of goes along the principle, the plumber has leaky pipes, the painter's house needs painting.
Yes.
The funeral director hadn't done his arrangements yet, right?
Yeah,
So he's finally getting around to this, and he wants me to do his eulogy. And I said, "But Arley, you know so many people." I said, "Why me?" He said, "Never mind, I want you to do it." And so I was honored, so I said, "Thank you for that honor." I said, "Hopefully it's not for a long time yet."
Yeah.
And Sheila says, "And by the way, you're doing mine." Click.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was it.
So I was roped into both of them, and what an honor. What an absolute honor. Yeah. And I hope I did right by both of them. But
you did.
Absolutely.
And when you sang at the... anyway.
And then in the book, too, it was not supposed to be this big. Yeah. But when she sent it to each person, she figured someone would say, "I don't want my name in there."
Right.
She got okays from everyone. And I will tell you, I was the proofreader. So I have read this book probably 8 or 9.
I was about to say several times.
and you still find stories that you forgot.
Yep.
But you will never forget her.
You can't. You cannot forget Sheila McNeill.
One thing that I don't think we talked about, not to dominate the conversation here, but it just popped in my head. We talked about so many facets of her life, but one thing that we didn't touch on was she was an amazing daughter. She loved her mother with all her heart, and I had the privilege of playing cards with her many times, and her mother and I would be partners. And let me tell you, Sheila did not like to lose.
No.
And
well,
I
duh.
loved
Yeah.
the sparkle in her mother's eye when she and I would beat Sheila, because it was very special.
And she
I did not get
she
to
didn't
meet
have-
Sheila's mom.
Oh, she didn't have to say a word when she'd went, ooh.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was her famous.
I wish I had
we
met
do.
her mom, because I would love to have seen that dynamic, you know.
Yeah, it was very special.
It was very, very, and I was privileged to be there with Mom, you know,
Yeah.
when she left us. But up on the board in her room, they had asked her, remember? And on the board, they asked her what she wanted. And all it says is to be with Arley.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They were no good apart.
Yeah. Well, guys, we have covered a lot of territory today. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to say that we did not mention on here?
Just how important this legacy fund really,
Yeah.
really is. And I know that she, you know, is looking down and so honored to have it, but we can't do it without
Yeah.
support. We just can't.
Yes.
You know, I've been at many different things where Vice Admiral Al Konechny, who's known Sheila for 40 years, has said a few things. And one of the things he always refers to is unfortunately, the funeral of his sister-in-law, who was Jewish. And the rabbi said at the funeral, so long as we talk about someone, so long as we remember them, they're never forgotten. And I think the road sign, which is so appropriate that it's from Spur 40 to down to the elementary school, because it's the road right in front of where her store is. And more importantly, it's going to be where the new museum is.
Yep.
And what a tribute to her, 30 years after the museum got started, to have the road named in her honor, and the museum right there in front.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate for that.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time today and being willing to be vulnerable and open up about somebody we all really cared about, but I know y'all were extremely close. And so thank you for being willing to talk about it and to remember Sheila. All right. Well, guys, you have caught episode 69 of the Getting in Your Business podcast. If you would like to make a donation to the Sheila McNeill Legacy Scholarship Fund, please see our notes in the show notes, and we will make sure. You can also call our offices at 912-729-5840, and we will direct you to where you need to go. But guys, yes, please check it out. If you don't know, if you've never been to the Submarine Museum in downtown St. Mary's, you definitely have to get there.
We also have Sheila's book.
And you have the book for sale. I love it. All right, guys, you caught the 69th episode of the Get In Your Business podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.